renderforest.com.
Hi all, I'm Trisha Peach, host of the Peach Buzz, and I'm so excited you came back to join us today. I wanted to talk about kind of a controversial topic. Sometimes as children's pastors, as ministers, we have to have those tough conversations. We have to sit down and have, a confrontation, either with a parent, a fellow staff member, a child in our ministry. So how do you know, okay, this is when I need to have that confrontation? Now, if you're like me, Minnesota nice, you don't like to do this. I do not relish confrontation. It's not something that I enjoy, but you have to know when. You have to know when do you need to make that initial contact. So I've got a few ideas for you, and yes, you have to pray for wisdom. I've noticed older ministers are usually a lot better at this. They just have that's like that old song, you gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them. You know this, I think, through a lot of experience, and a lot of older ministers have that experience. They know, okay, I need to step in on this. So what are some factors that you should think about that tell you, I need to have a confrontation, I need to have that difficult conversation? Because sometimes if you let it go too long, it blows up and now you have a mess. You waited too long. And then sometimes you jump in too soon and people's feelings get hurt. So how do you know? Well, I think, it takes experience, but there are a few times that you need to address this right now. And number one is if it's a safety issue. If it is a safety issue, children's leaders, you are that last line of defense, and you're the first line of defense. You have to speak up because these kids often cannot speak up for themselves. You have to. So if it's a safety issue, you have to speak. So if a child is getting bitten in preschool, you need to speak to those parents of the biter. I've had to do this many a time. And that is an issue where you must, and you cannot put it off, you cannot wait, you must. Because if there's a serious injury and it ever does go to court, they're going to ask, did you do due diligence? Did you try? What did you do? And if you did nothing, that looks really bad. And I guess the most important thing is we want our kids to be safe in the ministry. If they're not safe, how are they supposed to hear about Jesus? So you have to make sure they're safe. So that means if you see someone continually bringing in someone that's not background checked, you have to speak and say, I'm sorry, if they're going to be here regularly, they have to be background checked. If you see someone doing something not safe, a child is like hanging off the back of the chair, you have to speak because now it is about safety. So that is number one. If it is a safety issue, you must speak up. I had to have a couple tough conversations with Sunday school teachers who love bringing in donuts for all the kids, and they have peanuts on top, and we have a kid having a reaction from peanuts. You must speak. You are the voice for those who cannot speak. So if it's a safety issue, you have to have that confrontation. I had to have that confrontation with some elderly people that were, elderly, tired today, can you tell? Elderly people that were propping open the back door of the church, just letting anybody into the kids' wing because it was cold outside, and we had to have that conversation because it was a safety issue. Okay, so safety, that's number one, numero uno. If it's a safety issue, you must speak up, and you must speak up now. You do not let that slide. Number two, if it's a division issue, and what I mean by this is not just that somebody doesn't like an idea you had. This is if someone is intentionally, I guess, or unintentionally being divisive. This means they're trying to turn people against you or against the pastor or one of the other staff. And this is happening and the gossip has started. I've learned this the hard way. You have to nip that in the bud right away. You can't let that go because it grows and grows and grows like a cancer. And you have to have unity if you're going to be able to grow. That doesn't mean you always agree. Even if you disagree, that's one thing. But that awful spirit of divisiveness can tear everything apart. So if you have any hint of someone being divisive and gossiping and trying to tear down, you need to confront them right now. You need to go sit down with them and have a conversation. You need to, hey, what's going on here? And then reiterate how important unity is to that ministry and let them know that that's not going to be acceptable. And if they cannot get on board, then there are many other ministries in the church that they can go work at, or other churches they can go to. But they cannot stay in that position if they are being divisive. Then you must engage. Okay? Number 3, and this one, see, we've talked about other people, but on this one, if you have an issue, Scripture tells us if you are offended, you are commanded in Scripture to stop what you're doing, to stop the ministry you're doing, to stop the worship that you're doing, and go find that person and talk it out with them. So how do you know that you need to have this confrontation? If you can't get your mind off of it and you are hurt, you need to go have that conversation. And I think this can be the hardest one for any person in ministry, because we think, suck it up, get over it. You can't say you're hurt, but you need to, because what happens then is it grows and grows and grows inside of you. And then the next time something happens with that person, you're not seeing that issue. You're seeing it compounded with the 3 before it, because you never dealt with it. And then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. Scripture tells us if you're hurt by something that someone did in your ministry, a leader, a staff member, you need to deal with it. And that means you pray about it, you scripture about it. But if it's still there and you're still hurt, you're going to have to be a big boy, a big girl, and go talk to them face to face until you can work it out. That's what Scripture says. If you don't, it's going to impact your ministry. It's going to wreck everything you're trying to do. If this is happening, you have to speak up. If you are feeling hurt, you have to speak up. The 4th would be if you see someone being mistreated, and that is even if you are the one being mistreated. What I'm talking about is you hear someone, not behind backs, but I mean they're being mean, passive aggressive, acidic. They are insulting. They are saying things to your leaders. The way that I have put it is my volunteers should not have to get in and defend themselves. So I had a couple of times where the volunteer is just this parent is blah, 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 about how late service went. I insert myself in there and I engage, because we cannot allow that. We cannot allow that to be happening in a church. And you cannot allow your volunteers to get verbally beaten up during services, or they're not going to come back. They didn't sign up for that. I figure I'm the staff. I'm going to insert myself. That's that 4th one. It's time to have the conversation. And you think this won't happen in a church? Oh, yes, it does all the time. So if that person is being nasty, mean, aggressive, you need to check them on it. And the way I look at this is if they are confronting me in private and they're being nasty in private, then I will keep it in private. But I will tell them that is really hurtful. That is not nice. Neither is it helpful. So I'm going to have you lower the volume of your voice. And I'm also going to want you to type out what you're upset about, but you're going to need to calm down. And no, you cannot call me names. I've told people that you teach people how to treat you. And I know that sometimes we think being a Christian, we need to be the human punching bag. But we are the ones that are training people how to treat each other with kindness and love. And some people, even Christians, don't know how to do that. They have no idea how to walk in fellowship as a community. And you need to teach them that. You need to teach them. So when they say, you know what, I can't stand you, you're so blah, 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 you need to turn around and say, that is not acceptable. And this is how you will treat me, or you can find another place to serve in the church. Jesus would call them on it. He called the Pharisees on it. He called the Sadducees on it. He called his own disciples when they were making mistakes. You teach people how to act. And I think we've taught people that it's okay to be bullies and it's okay to talk to people in nasty ways. And My rule though is if they do it publicly, now everybody's looking to see my response. So if, let's say, a parent tears into that volunteer and it's public, everybody standing there is hearing this, then I turn around publicly and say, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down, control your temper, maybe walk around the church a couple of times and come back in when you're ready to have a conversation. And I will say it to them just like that. But I will say, this is a volunteer. If you want to go talk in my office, we can totally do that, but we don't need an audience. When I have done that, people have been so stunned. Sometimes it snaps them out of their rage that they were just going off on a volunteer. Or I've also done that when someone is screaming at a kid in front of everyone. You bet I will engage. I will step in and say, can I help? Because you seem to be a little bit out of control at the moment. I will step in because our church needs to be a safe place. You need to step in. So even if you didn't witness it, if you have a volunteer or a teacher or a parent say, this person was verbally abusive, this person said awful things to me, I will engage. I usually start by saying, can you give me your side of this? Because I want to know what you said. Half the time they'll say, yeah, I blew it, I lost my temper. And then this is a chance for, I need you to apologize to her and let's rebuild this relationship. It's a teaching moment. So I hope you're with me on these. Okay, number one was, if it's a safety issue, you must engage. Number two, if it's divisive, you must engage. You have to stop that, nip it in the bud right now. If you're so hurt that it is affecting your ministry and your home life, you must confront it. You must engage. For if it is verbal abuse of yourself or anyone else, you must engage. And lastly, number 5, if it is a doctrinal issue with your church, you must engage. And this is what I mean by that. A lot of your leaders and parents may not have any clue what your church believes. I think you won't be surprised by that, but you have a lot of community church, or we're the Church of Christ or Church of God, and they may not even know what you believe. So if you are strictly Trinitarian and you have a teacher that's teaching Jesus only, then you're going to have an issue, because that's going to get back to the parents and to the pastor, and you've got a teaching being taught that's completely contrary to what your church believes. And I think what you have to do is call that person in immediately as soon as you hear, and explain, this is what our church believes. I've had people so shocked before. They're like, really? Our church believes that? Yes, they do. And we talk to them about, okay, we need you to not teach opposite of our own church's doctrine. That's not a good thing. So we will, especially our key teachers, our lead teachers, they shouldn't be off doctrine. And if they are, that shows you we need to do better in our trainings. But you do have to engage. You must. We had a preschool teacher who began teaching one morning to all the preschoolers that none of their pets go to heaven. And regardless of how you feel on that, all the preschoolers are crying because one of them's cat just died. And then that gets to the parents, and we have ourselves a whole doctrinal mess. So I did call her in. I explained, our church does not hold an official position on this, and we would rather you not teach on if all dogs go to heaven or not. And she was shocked. She's like, well, I thought all Christians knew that pets don't go to heaven. And I'm thinking, my cat is there. I know it. So I thought, this is one of those things that you must engage. So those 5 things are things you have to engage. You have to get in there. Safety issue, anything that involves safety or sexual abuse, anything like that. If it's a safety issue, you must confront. If it is an issue of divisiveness, you must confront. If it is an issue of you being hurt and not being able to get past it, you must confront. If it's an issue of someone being verbally abusive, you must confront. If it is an issue of doctrine, you must confront. So these are the 5 major things that you must initiate a conversation right away and not let it fester and grow and get worse. So I hope this has been helpful. Did I miss any? Please comment down below. What are your thoughts? Have you ever had to have one of these difficult conversations? And what did you learn? I'm honestly asking because I'm always trying to grow in having these conversations. So thank you for coming. We will see you again next week. Don't forget to vote on Tuesday. If you are in the United States watching this, we have a vote this Tuesday on November 3rd. And remember, love in those confrontations. We'll get through it. Love in those confrontations. All right, thank you. We love you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.